I am in our new project which I named Jump Hero, and that's the name of our next game that we are going to create. So let us start by creating our folders. The first folder that I'm going to create is our scenes folder, so I'm going to name it scenes. Hold Command and press S on Mac, or Control and S on Windows, or simply go here under File and click on Save Scene in order to save the scene. Save it here in the scenes folder and name it Gameplay. This is our scene. And now we are going to import our assets. So here I have the backgrounds, the buttons, the platform, and the player. Now instead of creating here a sprites folder and dragging each of these sprites, what I'm going to do is simply going to drag the whole folder here, sprites, and we are also going to drag our fonts. So simply drag them here in our Unity editor so that Unity can import them. Now we are going to configure our player sprite. So simply select it, and here I'm going to uncheck this generate bitmaps. I'm going to override it here, and I'm going to set the size at 512 and set it to be true color, and the sprite mode is going to be multiple, and hit apply. So here we have our player, and I'm going to slice him. So click on slice here and then click slice, and this is going to slice our player in individual sprites. And now simply hit apply so that we have our player. So now we have each individual sprite of our player. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a player animation. But before that, we need to create here another folder, which is going to be animations. And inside of it, I'm going to have a player folder. So player animations. So player animations folder. So I like it to be organized, or the organization to be like this. So animations, here we have player animations. I like to have, well, folders for each separate thing that I do. That way I can keep track of the project, so on and so forth, which I also recommend for you to do. Now that we have created our folder for our player animations, let us create our player animation. And we can do that by simply selecting all of these individual sprites and drag and drop them here in the scene. And now we have here the player animation. So here we have the player animations. This is the controller of the animation, and this is the animation itself. So I'm going to name this animation Jump Animation, so like this. And I'm going to select these two files and, well, put them here in our player animations. And also here in our hierarchy panel, I'm going to rename our player to simply player. If I run the game now, we are going to see our player, well, jumping. What we can do also is here in our animation panel, and how to open this panel, we can simply go here under window and then click on animation. So let me just find it here where it is. So here we have the animator, and here we have the animation. So simply click on the animation and it will open this window right here, and you can drag it to reposition it wherever you like, and do the same thing for the animator. So simply go here under window and click on the animator. So we can select our player, and here we have that animation. And also here in the animator panel, we have that animation. We also need an idle animation for our player. For that, go under animation panel, which we see right here. So the animation panel, not the animator. And here where it says jump, the name of our animation, click on that and click on create new clip. And save it here in our animations folder for our player. And I'm going to name this one idle and simply hit enter, and that's that. And this one is going to have also 12 samples, which is 12 frames per second. And I also need to reposition this, well, window right here, because we need to drag a single frame, which is this player 0. So simply drag it and drop it here. And this is going to be our idle animation. So open the player, well, here sprite, and drag this player 0. So simply drag and drop it here to create that one frame. And practically, that's our idle animation. And now we can configure these animations. So we have them here in our animator. I'm going to set the idle to be the default one, because if we run the game now, we see that the player is jumping. We want the idle to be the default one. We don't want our player jumping right away when we start our game. So simply right click here on the idle animation and click on set as default layer state. And this is, well, the idle animation. And also click on this player here, which is the name of the animation, and simply rename it to jump. So here you can rename it to jump, because this is going to be our jump animation. Now what we need to do is we need to create a transition between our animations, because in our code, when we jump, we want to play the jump animation. When we are not jumping, then we are playing the idle animation. For that, we need to create a parameter here and click on this plus sign. So here under parameters, so not under layers, go under parameters right here and click on this plus sign that you see here. And here click on the Boolean parameter because we want to add a Boolean parameter and it's going to be named jump. Now, in order to make transitions from one animation to another, we need to click this animation and click on make transition. And then we point to the animation where we want to transition to. So we want to go from idle to jump and again from jump to idle. And we can select these lines representing our transitions, and here in the conditions we can specify which conditions we want to fulfill in order to make that, well, transition. So we want to go from idle to the jump animation, and here we are going to click on the plus sign when jump, our parameter that we have just created here, is equal to true. So when the jump is true, we are going to go from idle to jump animation. And we are going to go back from jump to idle, again clicking on this plus sign to add a condition when jump is equal to false. And I'm going to explain this in the code when we do it, but practically when jump is equal to false, we are going to go back from jump to idle, and when it's equal to true, we are going from idle to jump. And the last thing that is left for us to do before we wrap this video is double click on the jump animation, so simply double click it and uncheck this loop time because we don't want our animation to loop. So practically simply double click it, uncheck the loop time because we don't want the animation to loop. Again, making the transition, right click, click on make transition and point to which, well, animation you want to go. Click on the transition here itself, add a parameter. So we are going to go from idle to jump when our jump parameter is equal to true, and again going back from jump to idle when our jump is equal to false.